The problem of Mexican immigration to the United States begins with a wrong definition of what the phenomenon of is. In the United States, the solution that has been proposed by President Obama has been conceptualized as a comprehensive reform, and that is that represents a mistake in terms of the conceptualization of the problem, because this problem is associated with a bilaterally shaped phenomenon. That is, one that both the causes and the consequences are located at the two sides of the border. In the United States, the causes are associated with an insatiable demand for the labor force of the migrants. This is an endogenous demand that is causally related to the phenomenon when it enters in interaction with the factors that shaped the supply of the migration from Mexico, and that is also an endogenously shaped phenomenon. So this the reform is unilateral by definition. As an act of legislation from the Congress of the United States, it is a unilateral decision that will never solve problems related to a bilaterally shaped phenomenon. Obviously, the product of the legislation that will produce a new policies of immigration for the United States, this is something that cannot be applied beyond the borders of the United States. However, the phenomenon is one that goes beyond the borders of the United States. It's the phenomenon has causes and consequences at the two sides of the border, and a legislative decision cannot be implemented beyond the borders of the United States. That is the beginning of the problems associated with the immigration from Mexico. Certainly, these problems are exacerbated by the ideological perspectives of the consequences of the undocumented immigration from Mexico to the United States. There is manifestations of xenophobia in various broadcasts, in radio programs, in various parts of the United States, where almost on a weekly basis there is a repetition that immigration from the United States is bad for the United States, that immigrants are a bunch of criminals that are coming to produce harm in the United States. Nothing of that is supported by the facts, but it's what is nurturing the basic beliefs about the immigration from Mexico, where at the present time there is a predominance of xenophobia that is represented by more than 12 states legislators in the United States that are trying to repeat or imitate the Arizona law, which originally established the authorization for all the police forces in the state of Arizona to arrest and deport anyone who looked suspicious of being an illegal alien. That is, an arrest that is based on appearances of the persons. That legislation that deals with the appearances as a basis for arrest and deportations was not in the books of any of any place in the world ever since the the Nuremberg laws in the Nazi Germany. And this is something that, of course, aggravates the problem. So I think that the synthesis of what I have said is that the reform as a solution will not solve actually the problem, because it's a wrong definition of the phenomenon. In Mexico, the migration to the United States is not the main problem of violation of human rights at the present time. That is related to migration from Central America. In Mexico, violations of the human rights of Central American migrants, it is really the most serious aspect of the international migrations involving Mexico. Mexico is becoming the country where the number of violations manifested by the number of bodies of Central American immigrants that have been found in various parts of the country, that is the most dramatic manifestation of violations of human rights, and that is the most serious problem that Mexico is facing, that is aggravated by the fact that the responsibility of the state, which is a concept developed in the international law that deals with the responsibilities of the states where its representatives have committed acts in violation of human rights of individuals from other countries. That is something that has not been recognized as such, because the President of Mexico, President Calderon, has said in the international conference that took place in Puerto Vallarta this year, has said that the main problem of violation of human rights of migrants is caused by organized crime. That is true only partially, because certainly organized crime is involved in the violence against migrants, but the participation of police agents and the members of the Mexican Army makes the responsibility of the state more directly related to acts of members of the state, members that represent the Mexican state, where the state has delegated the use of force into the police and the army for the violations of the Mexican laws, and that is something that has actually deviated the attention of the main responsibilities of the Mexican government related to the crimes against migrants committed by policemen and members of the Mexican army. I don't want to end this presentation without mentioning the bilateral agreement that more than 30 years ago was reached by Mexico and Canada, which has demonstrated over the years, over the decades, actually more than 3 decades of compliance, has been an example of the most rational solution to the interest of Canada for the labor force of Mexican immigrants and the interest of Mexico for the respect of the human rights of Mexican migrants. This agreement is not perfect. There are some complaints by the main actors, by the migrants and by the employers. The migrants complain that they are not free to work in all the sectors of the Canadian economy. The government of Canada resists this idea, and of this, the result of that is some inconformities about that agreement. Nevertheless, that represents the most clear example of a rational approach to the questions related to the international migration of workers. This is something that it is to congratulate the two states, Canada and Mexico, for the way they have approached this phenomenon. That is obviously far, far away from the way the Mexico and the United States have approached the question of the same phenomenon of migration workers, and that obviously the contrast in terms of patterns of violation of human rights are quite dramatic. But not as dramatic as the most recent findings about the bodies of Central American migrants that have been found in Mexico. And this is something that has to be related with the very low level of consciousness in the civil society of Mexico about the question of international migrations, both toward the United States and from Central America toward Mexico. There is a very recent manifestation of some level of awareness of the Mexican society in a march that took place last week, that is in the month of May, and that took place between Cuernavaca and Mexico City, with thousands, actually close to 30,000 marchers that were using pancards alluding to the basic violations of human rights in Mexico, not only related to migration but related to the drug traffic and also the misconceptions that are not very distant from the ones that I have mentioned about migration, that also plagued the discussions of drug traffic, particularly because of the insistence of the Mexican government and the President of Mexico in the use of the military as a solution to the problems related to the drug traffic. This is something that has demonstrated to be not the case, to be totally unsuccessful. Nevertheless, the Mexican government insists in that solution. So in that respect, there are misconceptions not only about migration but also about the root causes and consequences of drug traffic in Mexico, which of course is very much related to the vicinity that Mexico has with the most important demand for drugs in the world, that it is in Southern California and the rest of the border between the United States and Mexico, which is compounded by the fact that the United States has a almost total freedom for the exportation of weapons, that of course are one important factor in the consequences of violence in Mexico and the relationship between the drug traffic and the violence that plagued the whole country, not only the Mexican border but actually the whole border. So the relation between Mexico and the United States is one where there are not only problems in the realities of the phenomenon of the vicinity between the two countries, but in the conceptualization that the Mexican government is making about how to pursue the solutions to the two problems that are not necessarily related. Thank you.